Hello, hello student. Today we again discuss on an important topic that is income from house property. In lecture number 1, we already discussed on meaning of income from salary for the purpose of Income Tax Act. Secondly, certain condition which is needed for the income from house property. Similarly, the meaning of let out house property, deemed to be let out house property, and self-occupied house property. In this lecture, we are discuss about how to compute income from house property under let out house property, deemed to be let out house property, and self-occupied house property, and step used while competition of income from house property. Okay, so this is the basic format of competition of income from house property and step used in it. See, particulars in case of let out house property, deemed to be let out house property, and self-occupied house property. Firstly, we are going to discuss about which steps are used while calculating income from house property under the let out house property. So, step number 1, step first is the expected rent. Expected rent. Okay. So, firstly, we need to calculate expected rent. And how to calculate expected rent? It is calculated as after comparison of three figures, that is municipal valuation or fair rent. Okay. Firstly, we put two figures, that is municipal valuation and fair rent, which is given in the problem, and we need to compare of above two figures, that is municipal valuation or fair rent, whichever is more, but subject to maximum number 3 standard rent. Okay, so while calculating expected rent, three figures are available, that is first is municipal valuation, B fair rent, and C standard rent, and we need to compare all these three figures, and after comparing by proper formula, we have to calculate expected rent. Okay, so what is the formula? Municipal valuation or fair rent, whichever is higher, whichever is higher or more, whichever is higher or more. Okay, whichever is higher, but subject to maximum standard rent. So firstly, we need to compare the municipal valuation and fair rent, whichever is higher. For example, municipal valuation of rupees 10,000, municipal valuation of rupees 10,000, and fair rent of rupees 8,000. Just compare these two figures, two amounts, rupees 10,000 and rupees 8,000, whichever is more, whichever is higher. So 10,000 is higher. So firstly, we abstract first figure, that is 10,000, municipal valuation or fair rent. Municipal valuation is more than fair rent. So first figure is 10,000, but subject to maximum standard rent. After comparing these two figures and calculate the first figure, that is rupees 10,000, we need to compare this figure with standard rent. Okay, so in this case, if standard rent of rupees 12,000, for example, standard rent of rupees 12,000. Okay, then we need to compare the first figure, that is municipal valuation or fair rent, whichever is higher, 10,000 and 8,000, whichever is higher, 10,000 is higher. Then this 10,000 we need to compare with the standard rent. Okay, so we need to check out whether the first figure is not exceed standard rent. Here, after comparing these two figures, 10,000 is our answer, first answer, and we need to compare this first answer, that is rupees 10,000, with standard rent. Standard, in this case, standard rent of rupees 12,000. So just compare the rupees 10,000 and 12,000. So after comparing these, we are able to know that 10,000 is not more than 12,000. 10,000 is not more than 12,000. That means it is subject to maximum. Okay, so in this case, 10,000 is our final answer, that is expected rent. This is our expected rent. Expected rent. Sorry, expected rent. Okay, again we just put some another figure. For example, in this case, our standard rent of rupees 9,000. Again, compare the above two figures, that is municipal valuation or fair rent, whichever is higher, rupees 10,000 is higher. Then compare the 10,000 with standard rent, that is rupees 9,000. But now 10,000 is more than 9,000, that is the rupees 10,000 cross the limit of standard rent. Cross the limit of standard rent because rupees 10,000 is higher than or more than standard rent. It crossed the limit of rupees 9,000. So in this case, the expected rent will be standard rent, that is 9,000, rupees 9,000. Okay, म्हणजे काय या ठिकाणी की म्युनिसिपल व्हॅल्युएशन आणि फेअर रेट त्या दोन फिगर आपल्याला कम्पेअर करायच्या आणि या दोन पैकी जी मोठी अमाऊंट असेल ती आपल्याला बाजूला करायची. मग आपण इथे कम्पेअर केलं, म्युनिसिपल व्हॅल्युएशन आपलं 10,000 आहे आणि फेअर रेंट आपलं 8,000 आहे. त्या दोन्हींचं आपण कम्पॅरिझन केलं तर मोठी रक्कम आली 10,000. ओके, आता ती जी 10,000 आली ती स्टँडर्ड रेंट बरोबर कम्पेअर करा. ती स्टँडर्ड रेंट पेक्षा जास्त येता कामा नये, जास्त येता कामा नये. ओके, जर ती जास्त येत असेल तर स्टँडर्ड रेंट हे एक्सपेक्टेड रेंट असेल आणि त्या दोन फिगर पैकी जर कम्पेअर केलेली फिगर ही स्टँडर्ड रेंट पेक्षा लहान असेल तर तीच एक्सपेक्टेड रेंट म्हणून आपल्याला तिथे घ्यावायची आहे. मग आता इथे काय केलं आपण, 10,000 आणि 8,000, 10,000 मोठी रक्कम आहे आणि 10,000 आपण 9,000 बरोबर कम्पेअर केलं तर ती मात्र 9,000 पेक्षा मोठी यायला लागली, म्हणून 9,000 आपण इथे एक्सपेक्टेड रेंट घेतलं. परंतु याच्या अगोदर आपण इथे किती घेतले होते, 12,000 घेतले होते. मग आता कम्पेअर जर केलं आपण तर 10,000 and rupees 8,000, whichever is more, 10,000 is more. And now compare the 10,000 with rupees 12,000. 10,000 आपण 12,000 अशी कम्पेअर करा. आता मात्र 10,000 हे 12,000पेक्षा लहान आहे. लहान असल्यामुळे मात्र म्हणजे ते लिमिट क्रॉस करत नाही स्टँडर्ड रेंटचं आणि म्हणून तिथे आपलं एक्सपेक्टेड रेंट किती असेल, 10,000 असेल. आता इथे फॉर एक्झाम्पल परत आपण थोडंसं बघूयात वेगळ्या पद्धतीने. इथे सपोज आपलं 11,000 असेल किंवा 13,000, किती आहे फेअर रेंट 13,000. मग अगेन कम्पेअर द म्युनिसिपल व्हॅल्युएशन ऑर फेअर रेंट 10,000 and rupees 13,000, whichever is higher, rupees 13,000 is higher. And now just compare the rupees 13,000 with rupees 12,000. Here again rupees 13,000 cross the limit of standard rent, that is rupees 12,000. Here 13,000 is more than rupees 12,000 and that particular rupees 13,000 cross the limit, and in this way we will just put the expected rent as a standard rent, that is rupees 12,000. 12,000 घेणार आपण त्या ठिकाणी, कारण 13,000 आणि 12,000 मध्ये 13,000 काय होतंय, क्रॉस करतंय लिमिट स्टँडर्ड रेंटचं, आणि तिथं 12,000 घेतलं. परंतु हे रेंट जर सपोज आपण 11,000 असतं तर आपण परत कम्पेअर करूयात म्युन्सिपल व्हॅल्युएशन ऑफ फेअर रेंट विच एव्हर इज हायर, तर तिथे आपल्याला दिसतंय 11,000, आणि 11,000 हे 12,000 पेक्षा मोठं नाहीये, जे क्रॉस करत नाहीये लिमिट, आणि म्हणून इथे 11,000 आपण घेणार आहोत. म्हणजे ह्या दोघांपैकी जी रक्कम मोठी आहे ती बाजूला काढायची, आणि ती रक्कम जर त्या स्टँडर्ड रेंट पेक्षा मोठी होत नसेल तर तीच रक्कम खाली घ्यायची, आणि जर ह्या दोन रकमेपैकी जी रक्कम मोठी ती घेतली आणि ती रक्कम जर स्टँडर्ड रेंट पेक्षा पण मोठी यायला लागली तर मग मात्र इथे स्टँडर्ड रेंट घ्यायचं. तर ही झाली स्टेप नंबर फर्स्ट. Step number first, it is called the expected rent. So this is the expected rent from that particular house property if it is not given on let out. Okay. So now step number 2. Step number 2. Rent received or receivable. Rent received or receivable. Okay, rent received or receivable. So how to calculate rent received or receivable? It is calculated by annual rent. Annual rent. Annual rent is the rent of 12 months. Okay, in your problem per month rent is given, sometimes annual rent is also given, but per month rent is given in the problem, then we just multiply by 12 months. So this is our annual rent for the purpose of calculation. Okay, and annual rent less unrealized rent. Unrealized rent. Some rent is not realized from tenant. Tenant means a person who reside in the house property after the given on rent. Okay, who paid the rent. Okay, and that particular tenant, that particular person is not able to repay the some month rent of some months to the owner of the property or income holder. Such a rent unrealized which is not received to the owner of the property is called the unrealized rent. Okay, so we just, for example, per rent is rupees 2,000 or rupees 1,000, for example, rupees 1,000 for example per month, multiple by 12 months. 12 months. Okay, so what is the calculation? 1,000 multiplied by 12, 12,000. Okay, and for example that particular tenant not paid rent for 1 month, that is rupees 1,000 per month multiplied by, or 2 months, for example 2 months, rupees 1,000 multiplied by 2 months. Okay, so rupees 2,000 for 2 months. We just 12,000 minus rupees 2,000, that is rupees 10,000. 10,000 is the rent received or receivable. Okay, rent received or receivable is the step number 2nd. Now we need to calculate step number 3rd. Step number 3rd. Step number 3rd. Step number 3rd. Okay, now we just compare the step number 1st and step number 2nd. Step 1st or step second, whichever is more, whichever is more. Now we need to check out or compare the step number 1. What is our calculation for step number first? Expected rate. इथे आपलं पहिल्या स्टेप मध्ये एक्सपेक्टेड रेंट किती आलं? 11,000. मी हे पुन्हा एकदा एक्सप्लेन करतो. इथं रेंट रिसीव्ड ऑर रिसिवेबल. अॅन्युअल रेंट म्हणजे 12 महिन्यांचं भाडं. मग पर मंथ भाडं किती मिळतं? तर ₹1000 पर मंथ. आणि मग 12 महिन्यांची किती झाले? 12,000 रुपये झाले. मग यातनं अनरिअलाइज रेंट म्हणजे एखादा भाडेकरू म्हणजे टेनंट भाडेकरू तो त्या घरामध्ये राहतोय पण एखाद्या महिन्याचं त्याने भाडं दिलंच नाही तर त्याला अनरिअलाइज रेंट म्हणतो, जे मिळालं नाही. ओके, रेंट विच इज नॉट रिसिव्ड टू दी प्रॉपर्टी होल्डर. ओके, सो इथे ह्या केसमध्ये आपण 2 महिन्याचं त्याचं भाडं बुडवलंय त्याने, ते दिलं नाहीये. ₹1000 मल्टिपल बाय 2 मंथ्स केलं आपण. 1000 मल्टिपल बाय 2 मंथ 2000. 12,000पैकी 2,000 भाडं मिळालं नाही म्हणजे रेंट रिसिव्ड किती झालं त्याला त्या वर्षी 10,000. Again, for step number 3, we need to calculate or compare the step number 1, that is expected rate. ह्या केस मध्ये expected rent किती आपला 11,000 and rent received किती 10,000. Just compare the two figures 11,000 and 10,000. Whichever is higher, 11,000 is higher. Okay, so this is the step number 3. This is the step number 3. Now in step number 4, we need to calculate the loss due to vacancy. Loss due to vacancy means if in that particular previous year that particular house property is vacated, that means no one tenant is reside in the in that particular house property. त्या house property मध्ये एखादा महिना किंवा 2 महिने ते व्हॅकंट होतं, ते रिकामं होतं, तिथे कोणीच राहत नव्हतं. पण त्या काळामध्ये तिथे त्याला भाडं मिळेल का? तर त्याला भाडं मिळणार नाही. तो त्याचा लॉस आहे. तो काय त्याचा लॉस आहे आणि तो लॉस त्या ठिकाणी काय करतो आपण? लेस करतो. काय करतो? लेस करतो. लॉस ड्यू टू व्हॅकन्सी. सो लेस step 4, that is loss due to vacancy. Loss due to vacancy from this calculation. And for example, in this case there is 1 month vacancy. Okay, 1 month vacancy given in the problem. So ₹1,000 multiple by 1 month. Okay, 1 month, that is ₹1,000. Okay, 1,000. So this is the step number 4, and now we need to deduct the loss due to vacancy from step number 3. Step number 3 minus step number 4, that is ₹10,000. ₹10,000. So this is the gross annual value. Okay, for the purpose of calculation of competition of income from house property in case of let out house property. So in case of let out house property, all 4 steps are applicable. All 4 steps are applicable. Okay, now we are going to discuss about the deemed to be let out house property. Deemed to be let out house property. Okay, what do you mean by deemed to be let out house property? Okay, particularly if owner have more than 2 houses. We already discussed on it. More than 2 houses. For example, that particular property holder have 3 houses, but as per the Income Tax Act, he may that means he allowed only 2 houses for self-occupied. Okay, self-occupied means for self-residence. Okay, but that particular landholder or a building holder or house property holder using all 3 houses for self-occupied, or some houses are vacant. Okay, that means in that particular year he not let out to that particular house property. त्याने त्याला 2 पेक्षा जास्त घरं आहेत आणि इन्कम टॅक्स ऍक्ट नुसार काय होतं की त्याला 2च घरं त्या ठिकाणी सेल्फ ऑक्युपाईड दाखवता येतात, स्वतःला राहण्यासाठी दाखवता येतात. मग त्याला 2 पेक्षा जास्त घरं असेल आणि तो सगळे घरांमध्ये राहतो, किंवा मग तो एका घरामध्ये राहतो परंतु बाकीची घरं रिकामी आहेत, त्याला त्यापासून रेंट मिळत नाही, म्हणजे लेट आउट नाही येत ती, तर मग त्या केसमध्ये तो 2 घरं सेल्फ ऑक्युपाईड दाखवू शकतो. मात्र 2 पेक्षा जे काही जास्त घरं असतील त्या घरांना त्याला काय दाखवावं लागतं, डिम्ड टू बी लेट आउट प्रॉपर्टी दाखवावं लागतं. आणि मग ते घर रिकामच आहे, मग त्या घराचं अॅन्युअल रेंट मिळेल का, नाही, त्याचं अनरिलाइज रेंटचं मुळातच ते पूर्ण अनरिलाइज आहे. त्याचं लॉस ड्यू टू वॅकन्सी हे कॅल्क्युलेशन म्हणजे स्टेप नंबर 2nd, 3rd, 4th त्याच्या बाबतीत येत नाही, कारण ते मुळातच व्हॅकंट आहे. मग अशा केसमध्ये मग व्हॅल्युएशन कसं कॅल्क्युलेट करायचं, तर अशा केसमध्ये स्टेप नंबर 1st ऍप्लिकेबल होते त्याला फक्त. म्हणजे लेट आउट हाऊस प्रॉपर्टीला सर्व स्टेप ऍप्लिकेबल होतात. ऑल 4 स्टेप्स आर ऍप्लिकेबल इन केस ऑफ let out house property, but in case of deemed to be let out house property, only first step is applicable. First step is applicable. That is rupees 10,000, 11,000, 12,000. What is calculation? 11,000 is calculation. 11,000 is calculation. So other steps are not applicable. Not applicable. Not applicable, not applicable. Okay, other things are not applicable. So in case of deemed to be let out house property, only first step is applicable, and this is the gross annual value for deemed to be let out of property. That is 11,000. That is 11,000 is the gross annual value in case of deemed to be let out हाऊस प्रॉपर्टी. गेट इट? ह्या पद्धतीने कॅल्क्युलेट करायचं. मग लेट आउट हाऊस प्रॉपर्टीच्या बाबतीमध्ये ऑल स्टेप ऍप्लिकेबल करायच्या. डिम्ड टू बी लेट आउट हाऊस प्रॉपर्टीच्या बाबतीमध्ये एकच स्टेप ऍप्लिकेबल होते. नाऊ इन केस ऑफ सेल्फ ऑक्युपाईड हाऊस प्रॉपर्टी, नन ऑफ द स्टेप इज ऍप्लिकेबल फॉर सेल्फ ऑक्युपाईड हाऊस प्रॉपर्टी. तो त्याला घर स्वतःला राहण्यासाठी बांधले, त्याने 2 घरं तो मॅक्झिमम दाखवू शकतो. मग त्याला स्वतःला राहण्यासाठी वापरलं तर त्याच्यापासून एक्सपेक्टेड रेंटचा संबंध येत नाही, किंवा पुढच्या कोणत्या स्टेपचा संबंध येत नाही. ते सर्वच काय राहील, नॉट ऍप्लिकेबल राहतील. मग मला एक सांगा की सेल्फ ऑक्युपाईड हाऊस प्रॉपर्टीचं ग्रॉस अॅन्युअल व्हॅल्यू, व्हॉट इज द ग्रॉस अॅन्युअल व्हॅल्यू फॉर सेल्फ ऑक्युपाईड हाऊस प्रॉपर्टी? इट इज ऑलवेज नील. इट इज ऑलवेज नील. तुम्हाला ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह टाइप क्वेश्चन मध्ये विचारू शकता, विच टाइप ऑफ हाऊस प्रॉपर्टीज ग्रॉस अॅन्युअल व्हॅल्यू इज ऑलवेज नील. सो in case of self occupied house property, gross annual value show always nil, because there is no any steps are applicable for self occupied house property. Got it? Okay, so this is the format of calculation of gross annual value. Gross annual value. Now after the calculation of gross annual value, we need to less municipal taxes. Municipal taxes, municipal tax from gross annual value. Okay, it is given in the problem. For example, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, whatever that particular amount is given, we just deduct the municipal taxes from gross annual value. For example, in this case, it is given rupees 2,000 for both houses. It is always not applicable for self-occupied house property because its already gross annual value is nil, zero. So it is not municipal taxes. That means such deduction is not allowed for self-occupied house property. ती वजावट घेता येत नाही कारण मुळातच त्यांचं वरचं व्हॅल्युएशन नील आहे. वरचं व्हॅल्युएशन काय आहे? नील आहे आणि मग ग्रॉस अॅन्युअल व्हॅल्यू मधनं म्युनिसिपल टॅक्सेस लेस केले की जी व्हॅल्यू येते त्याला म्हणतात नेट annual value, net annual value. Okay. After the deduction of municipal taxes from gross annual value, the rest balance is called net annual value. So what is net annual value? In case of let out house property, rupees 8,000, rupees 9,000. Again, in case of self-occupied house property, net annual value is also nil. So this is all about the computation of income from house property up to net annual value. After the calculation of net annual value, there are certain deductions allowed under income from house property under section 24. Okay, so there are 3 types of deduction. First is standard deduction. It is 30% of net annual value. Second is interest on borrowed capital for the purpose of construction of house property. There is no limit for the for let out house property and deemed to be let out house property, but it is limited to limited of rupees 2 lakhs for self-occupied house property. One more deduction is allowed in case of renewal or reconstruction. Again, for the purpose of let out house property and deemed to be let out house property, there is no limit. But in case of self-occupied house property, it is subject to that is limited up to rupees 30,000. So, but now that all deductions under section 24 we will discuss in the next lecture. Okay, so just practice it and try it. Thank you.